Welcome Home, a podcast for veterans, about veterans by veterans, is a project of Willing Warriors and the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run.
Good morning. I'm Larry Ziliox, Director of Culinary Services here at the Warrior Retreat. And today our guest is Ed Wehner. He is with Run for the Wall, which is a motorcycle run that stretches across the country. And it's a run that focuses on supporting veterans and veteran issues. And so welcome, Ed.
Thank you.
I'd like to begin with just if you could give us a brief overview of the organization and what the run is all about.
So Run for the Wall is basically a group of veterans and their supporters that ride their motorcycles from California, the Los Angeles area, to the D.C. Vietnam Veterans Memorial every year. And we get here every Memorial Day weekend. And then there's another route that leaves on the Sunday of Memorial Day that goes to the Middle East Conflicts Memorial in Marseille, Illinois. So along the way, really the main focus of it is on promoting healing among veterans and calling for a complete accounting of all the missing in action and killed in action in all wars, and as well as supporting the families of fallen and the military who are in service today. So.
And how many runs have there been?
So this year is going to be the 34th year of doing it.
Whoa. Okay.
So it started in the late 80s. There was a gentleman out in California, Gunny Gregory, he's in the Marine Corps. He was in Vietnam. There were several friends of his that were left behind. And so he was kind of a lifelong motorcyclist. And at about the time that Rolling Thunder was getting started in the DC area, the following year, they got together and decided that, so Run for the Wall was born, and he had kind of pre-scouted this whole route that went across the country. And I think the miracle of it at the time was that he was able to, in kind of 1 year's time, get all the support in place. There was many church groups and organizations that really got behind what he was trying to do, and that is to call for an accounting of the missing in action and killed in action POWs from all wars. So, and it's had great support for the last 34 years now. So it's been, it's really just an amazing event to see.
Yeah.
Patriotism across the country. They show this is the welcome home that so many veterans never got.
Right.
So it's really when you pull into towns and you just see this outpouring of love for vets. It's just, there's a lot of, not many dry eyes when you pull into places like Junction City, Kansas, and there's it's like a gauntlet of flags and well-wishers, and it's a great event. It brings a lot of healing to people who've suffered and borne the hardest effects of war.
Mm-hmm. And has it always been the same route? So are you ending up in the same towns year after year?
Yeah. So what's happened is the routes have changed a little bit, but more or less we do end up in the same places every year.
Yeah.
As things grew, originally there was the original route is what today is referred to as the Central Route.
Okay.
And so then at some point, I think it was in around the early 2000s, they split off they made a Southern route, and then they eventually split that off, and there's now a Midway route. So there's three routes. They all pretty much go to the same, to the same towns that they went to every year, with minor adjustments depending on, maybe if something doesn't work well one year, they'll kind of adjust it and work and make some changes to it.
Sure.
Just before the pandemic, they had started the process of scouting the route that takes them from D.C. back out to Illinois. Mm-hmm. And then, so the first year back after the pandemic was the first year that they ran the sandbox route to the memorial there.
And how long does it take? If you start the ride in California and you end up here in Virginia, how long is the ride?
So the rides are either 10 or 11 days. And so it takes a while, and to a person like myself, when I first became aware of the run, it seemed like, well, gosh, when I go across country on a motorcycle, I'm 3 days I'm in California. So This is a lot different, but these are 10 very intense days. They're emotional days. It's not an easy ride. It's difficult, but it's also extremely rewarding to do it.
Yeah. About how many people participate?
So when we leave California, I would say that leaving California is probably around 800 or 900 bikes. So the route that's the central route is probably around 300 motorcycles.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think another 300 probably leave the DC area headed to Illinois.
Mm-hmm. So the route is divided up into segments, and it's basically day one goes from LA to this town, and then day two to that town. And do you get folks that join you along the way, or just ride for one segment one day?
Yeah. So the rule is that we allow people to join at the overnight stops. And so the only requirement is that you have to be present at the morning meeting. So there's a safety briefing in the morning before we get going.
Sure.
Talk about any hazards out there, talk about kind of, what we're up against and whatnot. So then as long as you can join in, for instance, Corydon, Indiana, you can join there and then ride with us the rest of the way, or just ride for a day or two, whatever you're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm. And how does weather affect what you do?
It can affect things a lot. Yeah. So you have to be ready for everything. But they have definitely a tendency to take safety into account. So first year I ran it, I think day one you're going through the Mojave Desert. And you have lunch at a little town called Needles, California, and it was I think 107 degrees. So 2 days later we were in snow, or we were wading out snow in Raton, New Mexico. Oof. And so they have a tendency to we basically they have to make decisions based on the safety of the rider. So there's a mountain pass they had to go over after you left Raton. So we just had to wait until that cleared, and then we can continue to run. So it affects it. You're in it. We don't typically, once you get going, you don't stop for putting on your rain gear. So when we stop at a fuel stop, people will tell the new people, like, just watch what everyone's doing. And if you see everyone putting your rain gear on, probably a good idea to put your rain gear on.
Okay. Yeah. And each night, where is everybody staying? Are they camping? Are they in a hotel?
Yeah. So there's most of the people these days stay in hotels.
Yeah.
And there's state coordinators all along the way that do this marvelous job of organizing the hotels and making sure that they're available and getting good rates and discounts. But then there are a group of people that prefer to camp out. So they'll have some maybe municipal campground or some, they'll have something worked out where people can camp along the way. So there are some people that's the way they prefer to travel, and that's great. Mm-hmm. I think in the beginning of it was probably mostly camping.
Right.
And now it's probably mostly hotels.
Well, after 34 years, the riders aren't as young as they used to.
That's right. That's true.
And there's a big difference between sleeping in a bed and sleeping on the ground.
That is true.
So, and I'm guessing that your lovely wife rides with you on this.
No, she won't. She doesn't.
Really?
She won't go on a run. She's not a highway person. So
really?
There's a bit of it that's highway. There's a lot of it that's highway, and so that's really not her thing. But,
wow, that's surprising.
She supports me from afar, and she's a big cheerleader. So
okay,
we come into Virginia, and wherever the closest place is, you'll see her up on a bridge waving a flag. So, which is a great thing to the riders. They love that support that you get just from going under a bridge.
Yeah,
it's really good.
And to your recollection, what's the place that you've landed over the years where you get the most turnout for people cheering you on?
Boy, that's a hard question, because some of these towns, they just it's like the entire town comes out. So. In particular, for us on the central route, I think each route probably has their own towns that really come out for them. There's a little town in West Virginia called Raynell, and the route ended up going there the first year because as the story goes, they were trying to go down 64, and it's tolls, right? So they had, I think, around 200 motorcycles that year, and they get to the toll booths, and what they were trying to do was to have the to have essentially the last bike pay the tolls for everybody. And so the West Virginia toll operator said, no, each bike has to pay individually. And so they decided they couldn't do that. So what they did is they got off near Charleston and came on US 60. And there was a town where they're kind of trying to figure out which way to go and how to get there. And there was a sheriff that comes up and just asked them who they were and what they were doing, because you got these 200 motorcycles on the side of the road. So what they did is they leave this sheriff and they go up over this mountain pass and come down into this little town of Raynell, and there's a parade there. And the riders are asking, well, who's the parade for? And they said, well, parade's for you guys. And so what happened is the sheriff had radioed ahead, and the fire department came out, police came out, and they set up this little parade. So ever since then, they've been coming to this town. And so what they do is there's an elementary school there that empties out. The children come out with these little books that they've made up, and the riders, the whole thing is they're trying to get autographs from the riders. And then the kids are just so sweet, and they come out and they'll ask you about your time in service and what the ride's been like, and they're just lovely children. And the children in the school are the children of parents who were in that school the first year that the ride came through.
Oh yeah, right. 34 years.
Yeah, and so it's just a great thing. And the run, one of the things that we do is we contribute to charities that are kind of supportive of our cause. And so every year we've given a sizable donation to the school.
Nice.
And they've used it to build playgrounds, buy the kids computers. This has benefited this community so much. And it's kind of a hard scrabble community.
Sure.
But they really, that town, when you come to Raynell and Run for the Wall,
it
is powerful.
Wow.
It is a powerful thing.
Yeah. And so this year, how many riders do you think you're going to have?
We're doing pretty good so far. So probably similar to last year. I think right now we have registered, at least on the central route, I think around 300 and change riders. So we're seemingly pretty good.
Yeah.
So
that's a big number, actually.
Yeah, it's a good number. So there's a lot of coordination that has to happen to make sure that all this works evenly.
Yeah. Now, did you see an increase in ridership when Rolling Thunder went away, or?
Not really. I think it's been fairly even. I think what's unique in the DC area is that Rolling Thunder was such an oversized presence in the area on Memorial Day weekend, and so now with they have a kind of a replacement ride called Rolling to Remember, and but it doesn't have the same presence that Rolling Thunder had. So it hasn't really affected our, what we get here in the DC area. We get a lot of people coming from California, Colorado, Texas, out west. It's Run for the Wall is very popular out there.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really affect us that much.
And if I wanted to ride, I'm assuming I have to register. And is that through your webpage?
Yeah. So there's a website, rftw.us, and you can sign up there. There's, I think it's, at this time, I think it's $60 to register, and that covers you for the run.
Wow.
It's a super bargain, because most of the meals are covered. So they're donated by the communities.
Right.
I think last year I may have bought 2 meals, like a breakfast and a dinner or something like that. And then about half your fuel is typically donated by communities. So the state coordinators, again, they're real heroes of this, is that they work to get donations and community support to keep the cost low for the riders.
Sure. You guys are landing in West Virginia to start that final leg. I forget the date.
It's so we stay in Lewisburg. We overnight in Lewisburg, West Virginia,
right,
on May 23rd.
Okay,
and that's the central route. So, and then that last leg is from Lewisburg up into DC.
Okay, well, we're excited because I'm going to be there. My wife's going to be there.
Awesome.
We booked our hotel.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Diane and Sarah are going to be there as well.
That's great.
I am curious too, because when we travel, I like to find the best restaurant I can in where we're staying.
Right.
And I found it, and it was very interesting that all the way into May, the one night that we're staying in town, this restaurant is completely full. You couldn't get a reservation. So I'm thinking your riders,
That's us.
yeah, are like, ooh, I'm going to get a good meal here.
It's true.
And
It's true.
so I found a different one that's, I think, like the second best. So,
Well, you stick with me. I've got an inside track here, and I'll get.
okay.
You can have dinner with us.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that's really exciting. So now you're gonna stay overnight on May 23rd in Lewisburg, West Virginia, which is right off of 64.
Right.
And that puts you about 3.5 hours out from Marshall, where I think everything lands.
Yeah. So what we're doing this year is a little different on the Central Route. Is our lunch stop on Friday is going to be here at Northern Frontier Community Park, and so what there's 2 fuel stops that get us there. So we stop in Raphine, Virginia, which has been our stop for many years, and then there's a stop that is at Toms Brook, Virginia. There's a breakout. There's a little breakout group that'll go to Newmarket Battlefield and pay their respects there, and then join back up with us for the ride into Marshall. So then from Marshall, after lunch, we'll have a police escort that'll take us from Marshall into Arlington to the hotels there.
Wow! And both of those fuel stops are along 81. I'm assuming you guys come over 66 and then up 81, or 64 to 81 to 66.
Yeah, it's a very simple. Virginia's driving lease it's a very simple affair.
Right.
And then we'll get off at exit 27 on 66 and come through Marshall, and on into the park.
Well, I really don't understand why your wife doesn't like to ride with you on Route 81 and see all the truck drivers, which are a fun bunch.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but pretty soon, right out that way, there's a Buc-ee's going in.
Oh, okay.
So that you might want make that a stop. Right. That's going to be quite the show. Yeah, that's really.
It's interesting. And I'm. No matter how many times I tell her the story, is she still says, "Well, you're on 81, so you're on the highway." But the run has a group of road guards that ride with them, and these road guards, they're the best motorcyclists in the world, and they escort you, protect you from traffic. They have a whole system that they work out with drivers on the highway so that they can, because drivers and truckers, I'm sure they're confused by what they see. Is this long line of motorcycles? Well, how do I get through that if I want to get to my exit? The road guards understand how to operate with that, and they'll tend to get people in, get trucks and cars in and out of the pack without causing accidents. And so it's much safer than when Lori and I are just bombing along 81, just by fending for ourselves.
Yeah, so. Right. Well, that's good. You need that. I've seen that in work. One time I just happened to be getting on 66 one day when Rolling Thunder was coming in, and it was quite a sight. I mean, as far back as I could see in my rearview mirror were motorcycles, and then there were the riders out in the other lane with the road guard vests on that were not messing around. Right. It's a good time to use your turn signal if you're in the middle of all this.
It's true.
Let people know what you want to do, and they'll help you out. That's for sure. So, talk about Marshall. We need to get folks out to Marshall. Right. What time do you?
Yeah. So the current plan is we would exit at exit 27 on 66 at I think 1:05 p.m. on Friday, May 24th. And so what typically happens in a community like Marshall is they'll have people get the word out beforehand, and a lot of the shopkeepers and patrons down in the village would have flags and just cheer the riders on. That is it's a tremendous lift for the riders.
Yeah.
And then once you get to, if people were so inclined, they could also come to the park to welcome us. Hopefully we'll have the fire department out at the park. At the park, we also have a souvenir trailer, so that'll be with us as well. And so people can buy T-shirts and whatnot from the run.
Nice.
And they have great T-shirts, by the way.
Okay.
What I'm wearing here.
There you go.
And also there's also ways that if you wanted to donate or whatever, you could do that too. So it's really, even though we have lunch provided for the riders at the park, we're not providing food and food services for let's say regular people that come to cheer us on, but it's just great to have the support of people at the park and also in the community as we go through.
So I guess we want people either in Marshall by 12:45 or at the park around that time. So you all can videotape the riders coming in with your phones and put it up on Facebook and TikTok and every other internet place there is.
That's right.
12:30, 12:40.
Yeah, and so there's also, just to kind of explain what happens is there'll be a pack of there's a staging crew and the staging crew's job is to get the bikes into position for the next part of the run. Mm-hmm. So the staging crew comes through probably about 15 minutes before the main pack, and they'll get to the park and get set up so that they know how to get the bikes in and out. Mm-hmm. There's also a team of ambassadors that come through, and they'll interact with the people who are in the community, maybe give out pins and just thank them for their support. Mm-hmm. And then there's also a fueling crew that comes through that, there's no fuel stop in front of us, but they come through in front of the pack. So, and then there's a road guard. So there's a lot of activity that happens, let's say about 10 or 15 minutes before the pack comes through. So, so don't be confused when you see,
just a few.
A few.
There's
people,
more.
Yeah, there's more coming. So,
okay.
And then when we exit 66, Fauquier County will be escorting us through Marshall. So you'll see the sheriff's department and whatnot will be all set up. So.
Yeah, and that park there, that Fauquier County Park, it's northern Fauquier County, is really nice.
Oh, it's a beautiful park.
Yeah, it's really nice. I'm really excited about you all coming and supporting us. We really appreciate it.
And we appreciate the support of Willing Warriors. I mean, it's a great organization, and you're right in the kind of the sweet spot of what we're supporting, and so it's a great relationship.
Yeah. So tell us the webpage again.
It's www.rftw.us.
On the page, you can click on the central route and get all the information about the stops and the times, the dates, everything. So even if you're not riding, you want to come out and support everyone, please go to the website. Make sure you got the right date and times and everything. But Marshall is the big stop in our area, and that's going to be around 12:30, 12:45. Be in place so you don't miss anything.
That's right.
And it's going to be a great time. The weather is going to be phenomenal.
Beautiful.
And it's just going to be a lot of fun, especially if you like motorcycles.
Exactly.
I bet you there's a whole bunch of different kind of motorcycles.
There are a whole lot of different kinds.
Do you have any of those three-wheel jobs?
A lot. There's a whole platoon. In fact, I think there's 2 platoons of trikes. Oh. There's trikes. There's trikes with trailers, motorcycles with trailers. There's motorcycles. Oh. So there's a platoon for everybody.
So when you say trailers, are there people who tow their bike on a trailer? I don't know.
No, these are people that have have a trailer they tow with the motorcycle.
Oh,
and so they're
put their stuff in it,
like particularly in a camping world. So if you put your
tent,
your sleeping bag, your prom dress, whatever you need, you can put it in your trailer.
I like it. Okay. Well, that's good. I'm very excited about that. I've been trying to get my wife to buy one of these trike things to drive around on so I can get a big leather jacket and stuff. But so far, we haven't had much luck.
Well, bring her out to the run for a while. So see how rewarding this is.
You'll be there in West Virginia, and we'll be there in Marshall as well.
That's so exciting.
Well, great. Listen, I really appreciate you coming by today.
Thank you.
And telling us all about this. And we're going to get the word out and get as many people as we can there. It'll be very exciting.
Appreciate it.
And for our listeners, we will have another episode on Monday morning at 5 a.m. If you're an early riser who likes to get up and listen to podcasts, then there's one going to be waiting for you. Until then, thanks for listening.
The Welcome Home podcast is brought to you by Willing Warriors, a nonprofit organization serving active duty service members and veterans since 2012. To learn more, please visit our webpage at willingwarriors.org.